So good morning, everyone. I'm Kathy Wesley, and I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Columbus Karma Take Some Choling, thanking you for being with us as part of this program on the 8-petaled lotus of healing and meditation. Lama Losang will start shortly, and I want to thank all of you for your support, sending donations to Columbus KTC for our rebuilding campaign. I'm happy to report that the building is virtually finished, but we still have bills to pay. So if anybody wants to make additional donations, you can go to www.columbuskTC.org and make a donation. So thank you. Now, everyone here is familiar with Lama Losang, who has a history of being not just a 3-year retreat graduate Lama, not just a doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, but also a good teacher who is able to share his information in a kind and compassionate way that will help us be informed about healing and be informed about taking good care of our precious human birth. And so, Lama, if you would please teach us about the 8-petaled lotus, we would appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, and welcome, everyone. Thank you, Lama Kathy, for your kindness in sponsoring this. And as you say, it is really for the intention of generating some funds to help with the building fund that is necessary for what's going to be the flagship of all of the KTCs. I think all of you know how beautiful it is and soon to be opened. You know, this has required a lot of work, and a lot of people were responsible for this. As they say, it takes a village, and it took a lot, but what a great result we're going to have, and it will benefit so many. So as you know, in this situation, when you contribute to this, you're contributing now, but the results will go on. For anyone who walks through the doors, you will have a part of that good karma and merit that goes with it. So please be generous and help with the they're in debt, you know, so we'd like to at least try to resolve that debt to the best of our ability. So thank you all for being here and for your generosity.
Yeah, thanks very much. And now a little housekeeping question. If anyone has questions that arise for you during the presentation today, please type them into chat or write them down. Lama will stop occasionally to take questions. It's better to hold your questions until Lama pauses, but you can type them into chat at any time. Okay, so with that, I will bid you good morning and turn things over to Lama Losang.
Thank you again. So we'll start with a refuge prayer. And I'll just say it in the English once. You know, we go for refuge to the 3 jewels and the 3 roots, the sources of refuge. And in order to establish all beings in Buddhahood, we generate the mind of supreme awakening. So as you hear this, understand that we're doing this for the benefit of all beings, twofold benefit, both for ourselves. As Lama said earlier, we want to cultivate health and healing so that we live a long and healthy life to be of benefit to all beings. So that is our intention, and that is the attitude of bodhicitta. And we'll be talking more about that. We'll be talking about the virtues as we go on, and we'll be doing a visualization to help purify and cleanse our own body, as well as creating the auspicious circumstances for health and well-being so we can be of ultimate service to others. And I'll do a short prayer. Palden Sawe Lama Rinpoche, Daki Chiwo Peden Digitla, Kajan Chimpo Gone Jasante, Kusun Tuchi Nujuk Saldu Sol. It's a brief prayer to our glorious root lamas. And so we will continue with the 8 branches, or the golden 8-petaled lotus. We have now come to the end of our teaching on the introduction to these 8 petals. And for those of you who have been here through all of the teachings, congratulations on your perseverance and dedication and attendance. So just as a point of review, it was a medical training in ancient times, but this medical training is also appropriate to each individual. If you have a body and a mind, then this is of value. And just to reiterate those areas that we've already touched upon, the first one is meditation, self-cultivation, that is considered the most important. And the second one is Qigong or Tai Chi or exercise to help our internal energy, to cultivate that internal energy. So we have the stamina, strength, and well-being to understand our own mind. So first and second of these petals, meditation and Qigong, are considered the most important. So this was established during the time of the Yellow Emperor in China, 2600 BCE. And meditation and Qigong were considered the two most essential branches of medicine, the most subtle and therefore the most powerful, as they arise out of our personal practice. No one can do this for you. It's not a matter necessarily of, well, first of all, we have to be trained, but we have to do the practice. So as the Buddha said, we cultivate the virtue, we avoid wrongdoing, and we tame our mind. So that is the most important aspects, both of this system of medicine and of the Buddhist teaching. So the Chinese doctors understood this, and the training for physicians began with the meditation, self-cultivation, and the Qigong to develop our own Qi. Then comes the diet nutrition, which we covered earlier, and the body work or acupressure, Tuina, massage. That's the fourth. The fifth was a certain cosmology that goes with this. And we talked about the I Ching, classics, and Mo, which is a divination that we talked about and shared how to do that. And the sixth, that was the fifth. The sixth is feng shui and astrology. The seventh, herbal medicine, and the last, is acupuncture and related therapies, according to the 5-element tradition of healing. So doctors, at the lowest level, treated patients when they were sick. The advanced doctors diagnosed and treated diseases before they manifested physically by we went over the wood, the fire, and the earth previously. We'll be covering the metal element and the water element today, which finishes the fourth and fifth of the 5 elements. But the highest level doctor had no patients and gave no medical treatments. These great masters imparted, the teachings that to their students that we've been talking about to ensure good health and avoid illness. So that is the ancient view of health and harmony. So just we'll review briefly we did the liver element, but or the wood element, and just to review quickly, the wood element is associated with the spring. And Lama, if you have that 5-element chart, you could put it up so people can look at it as we review it, if you have access to it.
Okay, I think it might be up on screen now.
There it is. Okay, let's scroll down and see the correspondences that go with that. We'll come back to this colored chart. Okay, oh, good. This is, we can bring that up just a bit more, if that happens. So we can see the whole circle. That's good. Just like that is fine. So this represents the wood element and the associations with each of those. So wood has to do with beginnings, and that's you see the baby there. So it starts with the new beginnings, and when the seed begins to burst out of its when it first starts in the springtime, the little shoots, the green shoots start to advance, and as a human being is birth. The color is green. The quality, as you can see as we go around this chart, color is green. So having an attraction to the color green, everything has energy, everything has a vibration, and just the color, sound, and we'll see how emotions and the rest of it plays into each of these elements. But the color is green, and your attraction, if we look at your wardrobe, what colors predominate? What colors are you attracted to, and what colors are you not attracted to? Both of those are significant. So green, and it also is a color that emanates from the individual. It's usually seen around the eyes or around the lips. It is a hue or a color that the physician is trained in seeing, and it is a diagnostic indicator. But so is your preferences, a diagnostic indicator. The next one, the quality of this wood element is growth. It is associated with the sense organ of the eyes, vision. The wood is associated with the official of planning. So the organ of the liver is seen like a general in the field, commanding the blood and other resources to all the organs. So we say eyesight because we have to have vision. We have to be able to see, but not only physical vision, which it does command, and the quality of our vision is part of this element, and to have clear physical vision, but also insight and to be able to see down the road and plan, the official planning. So this is, we have to have vision in order to plan. The tears, because, you know, again, it is associated with the eyes, and tears are associated with that. So if your eyes are watery, that is what, or dry, that is also associated with this. It also nourishes the nails of fingernails, toenails, those kinds of things. So if they're ridged or peel or crack or are not in good health, the blood is not being nourishing the nails, which is a function of the liver. So we can see the health of the liver by looking at the nails. It also commands the ligaments and tendons and connective tissue. So usually the image when we think of the wood element is a tree. And just like a tree, we have our limbs, our four limbs, our arms, our legs, and all of the connective tissue that goes with it. Tendons connect muscle to bone, and tendons connect bone to bone. So people who have a lack of flexibility or range of motion or a pain in the joints, these kinds of things are usually, again, associated with this element. The two organs, the bottom of that chart, is the liver, is the yin organ. And just as a reminder, the yin organs are solid organs, and the yang organs are hollow organs and hold things, store things, or move things through them. So the gallbladder, of course, stores bile and is important in our digestive capacities, specifically to for fats, you know, to digest and metabolize fats, which is what the bile does. It is from the liver to the gallbladder and then to the small intestine. It helps with digestion. The liver is like a big enzyme factory and is essential for so many things, but digestion certainly. So indigestion, gas, bloating, a variety of other digestive problems, it can initiate from a liver that is not particularly healthy. And our livers take a beating from all of the pollutants that now more than ever in the air, in the water, in the food, and toxicities that we're exposed to. The liver is like a big filter, and it has to filter those things out, and consequently, it gets pretty beat up. And liver problems are seen frequently as causative factors for our dis-ease in a variety of ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The smell is rancid. So that the smell, and there is an odor that is associated with each of these. And rancid is like rancid oil. You know, when you smell oil and it has that quality of being rancid, actually the body can smell like that. And part of the diagnosis, and there's a story that I gave before. I think my teacher, J.R. Worsley in England, I studied in Oxford, England, because at the time that I began my studies, there were no schools in the United States. This was over 40, almost 50 years ago. I've been doing this a long time. And so my teacher would, we'd be doing rounds, and sometimes we would have problems as students. We'd have to come up with the diagnosis for the patient that we're treating. And sometimes we would be at odds with each other. And then Dr. Worsley would come in and give us his analysis. And sometimes his analysis would be at the end of the treatment. He would give the patient a hug when it was appropriate, or in some way be close to the patient and sniff their neck and give his diagnosis. It happened, I can remember numerous occasions, one of which was fire element, which is a scorched smell. He just, and this woman had lost her husband, and her fire had gone out, basically. She was alone, isolated, and sad as a result of that, and we'll come to the fire element. But his diagnosis was fire because of the scorched smell. But here, the wood element is associated with the rancid smell is associated with the wood element and the liver. The taste is sour. So an attraction, just like we were saying, an attraction to the color green, an attraction to sour taste, or revulsion, not wanting sour. It is not usually our favorite taste, but you know, sometimes people love lemon, or the pickle juice, or so many things that have that quality. And that actually nourishes the particular organ system associated with the taste, but also in excess can weaken it. So we should have the different colors in the food that we eat on our plate, the variety of colors, red, green, yellow, all those things, because of their color, because of their taste, they have particular energetic functions. And we'll be talking more about those. And we have in the past, and you may remember that these colors, sounds is the next one. The sound for the wood element is shouting. And you may know someone who has the quality in their voice. They don't mean to be shouting, but their voice really carries. It's very strong, and it sounds as if they're shouting to you from across the room. And you just want to say, you know, I'm right here. You don't have to shout, but that is a manifestation of this energy, the shouting voice. The emotion is anger. The tendency towards irritation, frustration, and anger can manifest, and that is their predominant way of expression. You know, it's also the inappropriateness of the emotion. So someone may be talking about a loved one, and they're angry, where we would have loving kindness and compassion, gentleness, and patience, which is the virtue associated with the wood element, is patience, and it is the antidote for anger. But this is the predominant emotion, and it's an expression of an imbalance. The climate is wind, so wind energy that can aggravate this. You know, I'll ask a patient, you know, about their preferences, you know, their favorite colors or their favorite tastes. But I had a patient who came in and said the wind makes them angry, which is pretty amazing, but it is like that. It can be irritating, and wind, cold in particular, can enter the body from behind the neck on the gallbladder meridian or liver channel, and it affects the liver, and people are sensitive. They may be sensitive to hot, to cold, to wind, to damp, to dry, but this is the climate. Particular, we may like particular places to live because the climate suits our constitution in a particular kind of way. The direction is east, and so there are other aspects of cosmology associated with that. So that is a brief introduction to the liver, just as a reminder. So we already covered the liver in detail, and we're going to be doing the healing sound, which is what we'll go over at the end. We'll be doing a meditation on each of these elements in more detail. I won't go over in all the functions of the liver. We have done that before, and you can review that in the previous videos. But obviously, physical symptoms, it can be abdominal bloating, it can be aversion to wind, it can be a blurry or weak vision. As we said, there's a number of symptoms that occur out of this. So we said the liver stores blood and moves blood. And for women, it can be menstrual irregular problems in the flow of blood, lack of flexibility, as I mentioned, in the joints or the tendons, ligaments, arthritic conditions. And I was saying that our limbs are associated, like a tree. And sometimes we lose our flexibility. And we want to be flexible. We want to be able to, for when the wind blows, that we can, our limbs are just like the tree. If they are dry or old, or they can break. So we want to keep them supple and moving. And that is also why we do the Qigong, or the physical exercises, yoga, or other kinds of things to keep the joints flexible, nourished, pliable. And we mentioned that each of these organs also, the body is seen as a kingdom, the kingdom of our body, mind, spirit. And each of these organs have a particular function, as we say, in this kingdom of body, mind. And this liver is the official of planning and decision making. So it grants us that capacity. And we said the physical symptoms, stiffness, brittle nails, those kinds of things. But on the emotional level, which Western medicine does not address at all, is aggressive kinds of behavior, anger, angry outbursts, depression, frustration, impatience, indecision, irritability, moodiness, resentment. And when we say rigidity, it's not only in the body, it can be mental as well. So rigid and inflexible attitudes or beliefs or structures, concepts. And the shouting voice. And we went through foods too. We don't have to do that, but there's also a particular acupoint that we used, which was liver 3, which is on the foot. And you can, that is a wonderful point to massage to help the liver. And you can, again, review the wood element in our previous videos. So if we could go back to that chart, and we'll just scroll down some more and look at the fire, if you would, Lama. So so just hold there in balance. Let's see what that says. Beginnings, we say new beginnings. It cleanses the body, has to do with the elimination of toxic waste. Exercise is beneficial. The greens, sprouts, it has to do with creativity. Again, not only from birthing, but we birth ideas as well. So our creativity for new projects and things like that are, when it's in balance, we have that capacity. And imbalances congestion, laziness, and of course drugs. And sometimes there can be a overdoing the drugs and dependencies that can occur, overdoing everything. This is, there's a variety of different qualities, again, that we'll be going over as we continue. So let's just scroll down a little bit more. We should have the fire element next. Yes. So again, by way of review, the fire element, the color is red. Again, this is a quality that appears in the complexion. I've used, I think when we were talking about this element before, I used the prototype of Santa Claus. We were around the Christmas time, I think, that we did this. So a Santa Claus with his ho, 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 and his red suit and a red face. Usually he's shown with red cheeks, and this is the quality that would go with this fire imbalance. He's the prototype example, the poster child for fire element. The quality is ripening, so it's coming to fruition. And in the summer, the wood, we said, starts the growth process. It begins to ripen in the summer, and these are the longest days of the year when the sun is at its strongest. So it has to do with heat and warmth, not only physical, but emotional heat as well, having the capacity for warmth, to be able to give and receive love, and to be able to express that fearlessly. So this is also, when we look at the sense organ, it is the tongue, and that also grants our capacity for speech. Sometimes people may have impediments in their speech, stuttering, or other kinds of things, which is an aspect of the heart in this system of medicine. And the tongue is the root of the heart. It is seen. So the tip of the tongue, for example, sometimes your tongue may feel burnt, as if you burnt your tongue by having something too hot, but you didn't, but you feel this sensitivity at the tip of the tongue. The tongue also is we can see the energy. The tip of the tongue is associated with the heart, the sides, the liver, the middle, the earth, and the back, the water element. But tongue and speech is the organ associated with the fire element. The fluid is sweat. Like we said, it was tears for the wood element. Here it is the pores of the skin, excessive sweating or no sweating. This is the fluid associated with that. The complexion indicator, I mentioned, kind of having rosy cheeks. You should have some color in your face. People, I don't know if women still use rouge, but it can be like that. It's a sign of health. So you just put a little color on your face to look healthier, be more attractive. And that is this fire element, the joy that goes with that, and the heat and the fire, and all these elements are part of the fire element. The blood vessels, obviously, cardiovascular system, including the heart, and the blood vessels, those vessels that go to and from both veins and arteries, are the tissues, and keeping them in good order so that the blood can move freely throughout the body to nourish each cell. This is the job of the heart, to pump the blood, and the vessels to move it through the body. The two organs are the heart and the small intestine. Heart, as we were mentioning, the solid organ of the heart, and the hollow organ of the small intestine. It moves things through it, and also absorbs the nutrients from the food that we eat. So those are the yin and the yang organs. These are paired: heart yin, small intestine yang, which is more active. Yang is active. Yin, we might say, again, solid organs yin, and the hollow organs yang. The smell is scorched. I mentioned in the idea, or the example I used with the patient who had that scorched smell. That is kind of like if you've been ironing and there's that smell that comes, that you don't have to burn the clothes to get that, but it smells scorched. It can be toast that has come out of the toaster and is just a little on the scorched side. There's a smell associated with that, but it is an odor that emanates from the body as well. And the taste that one might be attracted to if they're out of balance is the bitter taste, or in order to get more energy and push the heart. We know that things like coffee are bitter. If you don't put a bunch of sugar in it, its natural taste is bitter, and that, of course, affects the heart. It makes it work harder. Some people get very anxious and nervous when they have too much caffeine. That is a function that begins on the tongue with taste and affects the heart. So some people have a great deal of they're caffeine sensitive, so you have to be careful. But it is one of the coffee is one of the worldwide nootropics, or the things that stimulate our cognition. And so that's the bitter taste. The sound is laughing. But again, when we look at this, there's nothing wrong with laughter. It's the inappropriateness of laughter. So when a person may be talking about something that would normally elicit sadness or grief, the loss of someone or a pet or something, and they inappropriately laugh about it, that is a direct indication of an imbalance with the fire element. You know, we talk about hebephrenia. There are particular neuroses that go with this. Each of these elements as well can be obsessive compulsive, can be an earth situation, the paranoia with the water element. But hebephrenia, if you know, that's kind of wild laughter. That is a pathology, and it is a particular pathology with this element when it's laughter, excessive. The emotion is joy or sorrow, it's opposite. So having, we don't, usually we talk about negative emotions, and joy, although it's not a negative emotion, we all want to be happy and we don't want to suffer, but joy in excess disperses the energy of the heart. So excessive, joy or sorrow, sadness. The climate is heat, as you might imagine, with the fire element. It is associated with a time as well. I didn't say that the time for the wood element, but it is 1 to 3 a.m. And with the heart, it's 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So when the sun is at its apex, that is also associated. There's a particular 2-hour block of time for each of these organs, and this has to do with heat. And the opposite time, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., is the weak time for the heart. And I think if we did a search of people who may have had cardiovascular events, it would happen at that time when the heart is at its ebb. The direction is south, which we usually also associate with warmth. And so this is the fire element, briefly. So lots of sun and fun. It says imbalance, vigorous exercise. There's a lot of energy here with the fire element. It's the height of the yang energy. So it just comes out of the dormancy in the wood, expresses itself dynamically in the fire. So these are some of the imbalances: being shy, not expressing oneself, afraid, to play, over serious. There's a lot of words we use for faint-hearted, cold-hearted, lion-hearted. All these are an expression of a certain quality of this aspect of our energy associated with the heart. The heart is a pretty amazing organ. Every other organ that gets a little rest, so to speak, it's a muscle, of course, and it's constantly working. It is a very amazing organ, and is the seat of the Shen, or our spirit. And so we want our heart in to be healthy. And let's see. So certain physical symptoms that can go with this is anemia, angina, which is a tightening of the heart, and angina pain. We can have aversion to heat, heart attacks, of course, high blood pressure, anything that's associated with the heart. Even hot flashes can be associated with this as well. Insomnia, sometimes the heart just can't settle. The Shen is disturbed, the spirit of the heart. And so we have insomnia. And again, high or low blood pressure can be a problem, poor circulation. And, you know, we said that there should be kind of a pink quality to the skin, showing the blood flowing well. So the opposite of that would be an ashen color. There, we don't have the blood flow there, so the face looks ashen. And emotionally, you know, when it's out of balance, there can be agitation, anxiety. It can be excessive dreaming as well. During this time. It also is associated with memory. And so forgetfulness, lack of joy, lack of self-love. When we think of love, unfortunately, there's too much of that going around. And a mania. So there can be mania, or the opposite, depression, mental confusion, restlessness when the heart is not balanced. And so that's briefly the fire element. And I think we used there's a particular point that is on the wrist, in the wrist crease on the a little finger side on the that is a point associated with the heart. It's called heart 7, and it helps to promote calm. We said liver 3, that is a point that we talked about when we were doing the heart, or doing the previous talk on wood element. Here, just to give a point, heart 7 or Shen Men is a very nice calming point when we're restless or anxious, or for insomnia, and to alleviate sadness, heart palpitations, those things. The last one that we did up to this point was the earth element, which is the, and we could go again, just drop down one more if you would, Lama, and we'll look at the spleen. So it says late summer for spleen. It is also a short period of time between each of the transitions between seasons. There is an earth component to that. But when we look at the earth element, we see that its color is yellow. Again, it can be a quality or an attraction that you have for the color yellow, or a certain aversion to that. Yellow on the face. The color, you know, if we were to compare the faces of people, we would see a color differentiation associated with particular imbalances. Here, yellow is the quality, or the sign of an imbalance here. And people who are diabetic, their spleen, pancreas. So when we say a spleen and stomach, this is spleen and pancreas. The pancreas is also the organ that helps with blood sugar metabolism, and which, as we know, diabetes is on the rise. It's really epidemic, and it's because of our sugar, our carbohydrate intake, which is excessive. The body becomes incapable of processing it at a certain point. It is associated with transition. As I say, it's between each of each of the seasons as well. As we transition from one season to the other, there's a period in between that was associated with the earth element. The sense organ is the mouth. That is where the digestive process begins. So spleen and stomach is associated with digestion. So the mouth and taste, actually digestion begins in the mouth with saliva. So we want to chew our food and not just gulp it down. It makes it very difficult to digest in that way. So take your time when you eat, chew thoroughly, and without a lot of cold water. If you're drinking water, not a lot of fluids to begin with, because it dilutes the digestive enzymes in the stomach, but also the cold chills the stomach and interferes with the digestive process. The stomach is like a big cement mixer or an oven. It literally has to it is said the stomach rots and ripens the food. So it's like a big mixer, mixes it up, digests it further, and then moves it to the small intestine where it is absorbed. But we need to have the stomach healthy so it can do its job to digest. And as I was mentioning, the digestive process begins in the mouth with the saliva. That's the fluid. The saliva is the fluid associated with the earth. The indicator is the lips. So people who have chapped lips or thin lips or anything, sores on the lips, that indicates usually a stomach heat, and it is again a diagnostic indicator. So if you always have your chapstick close to you, particularly when it's cold, that is an indicator maybe of a little digestive problem associated with the earth element. So this is associated, the tissue is with flesh and muscles. It's not the skin. The skin is metal. We're going to be going over that in just a moment. It's more the muscles, the tissues that are associated here. And there tends to be, I often say that the earth element can be a little bit of a couch potato. Their exercise is not their strong suit. And sweet is, they like the color sweet. We'll get to that in just a moment. But the problem then is the flesh becomes excessive, and the muscle tone becomes weakened. So this is the tissue that has to do with flesh and muscles. So the two organs, as we mentioned, spleen, pancreas, and stomach. The yin is the solid organ, the spleen, and the stomach, again, a hollow organ that receives the food. And I know it's not very attractive to say rot and ripens, but that's how it's expressed in the system of medicine. It literally cooks the food, and we want to keep the stomach heat appropriate. Often people are given antacids and things like that, and it's really not the problem with antacid. In fact, taking too many antacids will affect the quality and capacity of the stomach to do its job. Often it is not enough hydrochloric acid to do the job, and you're actually neutralizing that with stomach meds that are often given to quell the stomach acid, but in fact it is often a problem with not enough. So again, your diagnosis has to be correct. So spleen and stomach. The smell is fragrant. So this is, it sounds like a wonderful thing. Oh, I want to have a fragrant smell, but this is a very cloying, heavy, sweet smell. I often use the example of a diabetic. And if you've ever been in a room with a diabetic, it's a very noticeable odor. It's called fragrant, but it is a very cloying, heavy kind of thing, like an overripe melon. It can be very strong smelling in that way. The taste is sweet, and that's generally the predominant taste that people like, unfortunately, to an excess. And the high sugar content or carbs that we eat has led to this epidemic of diabetes, which is an earth element problem, and abdominal distension and appetite problems and a variety of belching and other kinds of stomach problems. So we must really watch our carbohydrate intake. That is the thing that's creating most of our problems. Most of our pain is a result of inflammation, and sugar is highly inflammatory and addictive. So when we have a little bit, we want a little bit more, and it is a slippery slope. So when we talked about diet, we talked about the earth element in the past, I went into some greater detail about that. But just to make a long story short, you know, having 50 to 60 grams of carbohydrates a day is plenty. People have a lot more than that. You can get that in if you're drinking soft drinks or you know, sodas. And we're in Florida and we have sweet tea, and it is sweet tea. It's primarily sugar, and people get their digestion off balance with that. Okay, singing is the voice, the sound of the voice associated with that. And this is a quality, kind of a sing-song. The voice modulates quite a bit. Sometimes we see news commentators or other people may have this kind of sing-song voice. It's very, you know, it can be very lyrical. That's the name, singing. But there's a quality of voice that's very distinctive, very different from the other qualities, other voices. Sometimes there's a mixture. It's not always a pure sound or a pure color, but there is a tendency in one direction or another that is diagnostic. The emotion is sympathy or lack of. It has to do with our mother as well, and Mother Earth. When we were talking about this previously, I mentioned earthing. So walking on Mother Earth really helps your body to balance itself when we're connected to the earth vibrationally. It is important if you can have some time to just walk barefoot. I know right now in the winter, you're unlikely to walk outside, you know, without shoes on. But since we have worn shoes that have rubber soles, we have disconnected ourselves from the earth. As an insulator, we don't get the connection with the earth. You know, this is a relatively new phenomenon with shoes. I mean, our early ancestors would wear skins, and so they could still absorb the energy, you know, moccasins or other kinds of shoes that are not plastic or rubber. We weren't cut off, or you'd lay on the ground and absorb the energy like that. We were more connected in the past. Now we have very little relationship with Mother Earth, unfortunately, and consequently we are destroying our planet. So we want to be sensitive to the earth, our mother. We say Mother Earth, and it is associated with our physical mother, who has taken care of us in utero and out for many years. We are not able to care for ourselves. We're suckle at the breast, and we're fed and we're taken care of, nurtured and protected by our physical mother. But this, and our ability to mother ourselves and others, this compassion and generosity, gratitude, are all qualities that are associated with the earth element and this emotion. The climate is moist, so humid. Florida is one of those places. Some people love Florida, some people hate it because of this humidity that we have. And it's nice for the skin. But it is not so good if you have, the tendency is to be too moist, and there are damp conditions that create dis-ease, internal dampness. So moisture just aggravates that. It is the center. You know, when we talk about feng shui, the earth element, we saw that was in the center of the house. So the 5-element feng shui uses this when we look at our home, when we look at our surroundings. We have the particular colors, we have the particular associations with direction, and the center is the direction. This is the earth element. So the time for the earth element is 7 to 9 a.m. That is the time that the stomach is most able to do its job. And 7 to 9 p.m. is the weak time. So when we were talking about this previously, we were talking about, when do you have your big meal? And it's not unusual to have dinner, our main meal, and all too often it's can be later in the day, and maybe even as late as 7 to 9 p.m., which is the low time for the stomach to do its job. So there is the saying that you have breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And the latest research indicates that, and we talk about intermittent fasting and doing some things like that, that often will give a rest to the stomach. And going to bed after a big meal is not a way to get a good night's sleep. Your deep sleep will be affected, and sleep in general will be affected. So this imbalance, adaptability, relaxation, imbalance, you can see there. There's a lot of problems with eating that people have certain neuroses in body image and a variety of things that create imbalances in this earth element. So we talked about those things last time, and again, you can review that. So one of the important points that we talked about also when we were talking about acupressure was stomach 36, which is a wonderful point on the leg, on the lateral aspect of the leg, just below the knee. And you can check the other videos for that. But stomach 36 is really a wonderful point. It's located about 4 inches below the kneecap, outside of the shin bone. But this is it's a sea of energy. It's called leg 3 miles, and it's called leg 3 miles because in China, the Chinese military soldiers would use this point to stimulate extra energy, tap the sea of energy to go the extra 3 miles. So leg 3 miles gave them the extra energy to continue their march and to improve, help fight fatigue, and wakes up the body and mind, as well as relieving indigestion and gastrointestinal gastric disorders. So, and it also supports our Wei Qi, or protective Qi, our immune system. All right. So that is just a brief review of what we've covered so far as the 5 elements goes and that organ system. Are there any questions, anything in particular now that you'd like to ask, just to clarify those points?
Yes, Lama, there's a question in the chat. It says here, what would be the reading of Chinese medicine on the COVID disease, and are there any studies or treatments? And then the second question is, what are the elements that are imbalanced? And then says, thank you, Lama.
It often, we treat the person and not the disease. So no matter what the disease is, this particular situation with COVID, the body, we have not seen anything like this before. The body is not used to it. That's why it's been a pandemic worldwide, because the body doesn't know what to do with this virus. It's whether it was man-made or otherwise, it is a novel. It's a novel coronavirus, and it is novel because we need a vaccine for it, because the body has no defense against it, and that is why it is this last variety has been so devastating, not deadly, but communicated so quickly. In the beginning, it's definitely had an aspect for the lung. But there are secondary problems that people who had a compromised immune system could definitely not handle this. Some people got sick, some people died. Some people, I mean, with this last variety, the Omicron variety, and viruses mutate constantly. That's what they do, they mutate. And this one mutated in such a way that it really wasn't such a problem with the lungs. It was more digestive, it was more um, depending upon the energy of the individual and their immune capacity to ward it off. Some people had no symptoms yet tested positive. Some people had a variety of symptoms. And as it mutates, it usually mutates to a lesser degree and not to a greater degree, because the virus doesn't want to kill its host. It wants to maintain its viability. So, but it is highly contagious. But we're seeing, fortunately, it subsiding now, beginning to subside. But to be sure, there will be other variants that occur. That is just what viruses do. So the idea is always to keep your body, your immune system healthy by getting enough sleep, by hydrating, we have to take certain nutrients because the foods are not, don't have them anymore. Our food supply is very different than it was 20 or 30 years ago. For just taking magnesium, for example, the soils are deficient in certain minerals, say magnesium. So if the soil is deficient, the food is going to be deficient. And the quality of our foods are very much less nutritious than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or what our ancestors ate. Also not polluted with insecticides and pesticides and fungicides and a variety. We're poisoning our food in addition to not having enough, whether it's GMOs or other kinds of ways. The body's just not used to this, and it affects our immune capacity. And we see these situations happening around the world because of that. So, most physicians will say, if you eat a good diet, you're fine. That is not true, because a good diet is very hard to come by now because of our soils, because of the lack of nutrients found in that. So eating a wide variety, eating certainly organic food that is not exposed to all of the toxins, and taking care by getting enough rest. That is an important thing. How many people are sleep deprived? We are an experiment right now. We are going, we're all exhausted, both from this experience of COVID, but also the demands that are placed on us. It really creates an adverse situation to our good health and well-being. That's why we're having this conversation about the things that will keep us healthy. Meditation, our mind leads, and everything downstream is affected by it. If we are sleep deprived, if we're worried, if we're fearful, if we're angry, if we're, all these emotions that we've been talking about, if they are predominant, they are an energy suck for us and will drain us. And often we still can't sleep. And we're eating and pushing ourselves harder and harder with drugs and other modalities that it's just too much money out of the bank, so to speak. Our energy resources are getting used up, and consequently, we're having a bad time with our health now more than ever. And we spend so much money on drugs and things, hospitalizations, all kinds of things that are not taking care of the underlying problem. So this system of medicine really focuses on creating health. Our system of medicine is not health care. It's pacifying dis-ease through drugs. I don't know if that answered the question, but yes, there are many herbs that we use for these different manifestations of COVID. Again, it's going to be with us for a while. Because this is again something that will mutate. There's now another one that's out there that is now pushing Omicron out, but it is up to us to keep our chi, as our upright chi, healthy. And we've been talking about that throughout. So this 8-petal lotus is the way to do that. Each aspect is a way to do that.
Thank you, Lama. There are several more questions. So first things first, someone asked if I could share the Dropbox link for the chart that we are sharing on screen. And so I am at this moment sharing the link to the 5 elements chart in chat. It's a link to our Dropbox and to my Dropbox, pardon me. And then you can download the chart for yourself if you'd like. And then we have several more questions. What are some of the ways that we can better balance the wood element? That's one question. Better ways to balance the wood element.
So we mentioned sleep is so important. And we said that the time for the liver, we'll say the gallbladder is 11 to 1, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. And then 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. is liver time. During the wood time, you need to be asleep. So the eyes should be closed and you should be resting. We have to follow the laws of nature. So when you look at the charts that we have available, and we'll put up another one, I think, that has the times available. If not, we'll give those times to be in harmony with the natural energy of Earth. The sun comes up at a time and the sun goes down, and the seasons come and the seasons go. We need to be in harmony with those things, eating those things that are in season and that grow around us, hydrating properly, and taking the nutrients that are necessary for the sustenance of each of the organs. The liver we can use certain herbs. Milk thistle is a wonderful herb as liver protective. There are a number of things we can do, but certainly just drinking enough water. Water is the best solvent to move things out of cellular storage, to give the liver a break, to not be using drugs or alcohol, which also affect the liver dramatically. And then using certain herbs such as milk thistle. There are others, and again, it's dependent upon each individual's biological strength and health. So that is assessed individually. But I think we've been giving the guidelines for each of the elements. So following those things is best.
Okay, thank you, Lama. The next question is, can you talk for a moment about universal qi and how we can tap into it?
That's Qigong. Our primary source of energy is the air that we breathe. We can, again, go for a while without eating and drinking. We can't go long without breathing. So, and often our breathing is very shallow. We get, kind of focused on something and we're not breathing. You may catch yourself sometimes that, I'm not breathing. So, paying some attention to that through exercise or Qigong or Tai Chi. That is why those two, meditation and Qigong or Tai Chi or yoga, and yoga, includes pranayama or breathing exercises to maintain health. So that is what we do. Universal chi is it surrounds us. It is available if we use it correctly. So vitamin D is very important from the sun. So getting enough vitamin D, if you're not in the sun, particularly in the winter, vitamin D is very important for our immune system and for all the organs. But it's a hormone. And so taking vitamin D is probably imperative when we look at, coronavirus and we look at our immune system. Vitamin D plays a critical role in that and often goes unrecognized. So when you have a blood test check your vitamin D levels with your physician. You know, when you go in for an annual exam, they often don't check the vitamin D levels, and they're often deficient. You know, so check vitamin D levels, check magnesium levels. And most, if you have any kind of cramping, muscle cramps or things like that, if you do drink coffee or alcohol, it's a diuretic and it pushes these electrolytes out, and they have to be replaced. So you're not just, losing water in this situation, you're losing vital electrolytes as well. And that will also create an imbalance.
Thank you, Lama. By the way, also, Lama mentioned the 5-phase energetics chart that we used in the earlier versions of this class, and I am putting it up. I'm sending to everyone now as part of this chat, so you can look up in chat, and I do have it available.
I think we're going to actually have it in this, in the one that I sent you just now as well, so we could review that.
Great.
So we'll see that again along the way, the one that I sent you. I think it's maybe a variation on that theme.
Got it. Oh, okay. Yes, I see what you're saying. Okay, good. Then there's, let's see, we've got, it's about 1/4 to the hour, but we still have a couple questions, Lama. Should we, is it okay to go with them?
Yes, let's answer the questions. That leads to other things that, people may have questions about. So yes, let's go ahead.
Okay, here we go. Then the next question is, what are your thoughts about the use of, is it kombucha?
Kombucha. Yeah, that is, we're talking about gut health. So it is a way to restore the friendly flora of the gut. There are many things that we can use that help the flora. And we talk about, when we look at gut health, it is imperative that we use probiotics and prebiotics and those kinds of things to keep the biome of our gut healthy. And the certain toxins affect that. Antibiotics affect that, steroids affect that, a lot of prescription drugs affect that. So taking probiotics in the form of kombucha is fine, but eating natural foods, whether it's miso or kimchi or yogurt, natural yogurt, if you can make your own yogurt, that would be great. But the things, and you want to have a wide variety. There's about 6 pounds of friendly flora in our gut. So we want to make sure that that is in good quantity. And the drugs in those situations, antibiotics in particular, are antibiotic, anti-life, and they kill all the friendly flora in your gut as well, the good and the bad. It's indiscriminate. It kills everything. So you have to use a probiotic a supplement to restore that. But the best thing to do is to eat fermented foods. In all cultures, that has been the case. We don't do that so much, but it's one of those things that helps restore and keep healthy the digestive bacteria.
Okay. Lama, that's all that's in the chat. Let's see if anybody has questions who would like to unmute their microphones and ask their question.
Hi there.
Hi,
Thank
Jude.
you, Lama, so much for this teaching. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic. Thank you. May all beings benefit. And I just wanted to tag on to this question, if I could, Lama Losang.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on the use of anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, like meloxicam, for like prevention is probably the best if that can be the way, but what are your thoughts on anti-inflammatory medications?
I would use anti-inflammatory medications like the NSAIDs. Those are one of the things that destroy the friendly flora and are not really to be used for long-term use. It says so right on the bottles, but people use them like candy for the most part. I know that they just, they're in pain, so they're going to use the NSAIDs, the anti-inflammatories, and so everything starts with inflammation. So how do we take care of that? We use things like curcuma or turmeric. We use, there's a lot of different herbal formulas that are anti-inflammatory that don't create the disbalance, disharmony in our gut. I am not suggesting you use the over-the-counter Tylenol, ibuprofen, those things. That in the long run will create, it suppresses the inflammatory response. It doesn't really take on the cause. We have to treat the cause. What is the cause of that inflammation? Generally, it is our diet. So we have to correct that first. That is the underlying problem, and the stomach and spleen, like we've been talking about, the digestive tract, and the sugars, that the carbohydrates in particular that create the inflammatory process. And if we again look at our diet, it's high carb. Not only the sugars, but the breads and pastas and those other things are sugars. I don't know if people understand that, but and a lot of vegetarians, which I am, but you have to be very careful. I think I recommended the book Ketotarian. I'm going to suggest that book again by Will Cole. It is basically a food-based or vegetable-based diet, but it is anti-inflammatory as well. So we have to look at the diet when it comes to inflammation. As Einstein said, you can't keep doing the same thing, expect a different result. And you can take NSAIDs until you drop dead, which would probably hasten you dropping dead, but that's not going to take care of the underlying problem.
Thank you, Lama. And thank you, Julie. Two more questions have arisen in chat. This was a question, says, you may answer this later. However, do you think that universal chi is the dark matter that physicists are looking for?
Probably. I mean, it's all, there's just one thing, when we look at it. And again, this is relative reality as opposed to ultimate reality. And yes, as we look at relative reality, there is chi, there's the vital life force that surrounds us from nature, so yes, it could be. I'm not a physicist, but yes, that could very well be.
Okay. And then I think that, Lama, if you have anything else you'd like to share in the morning session, this will be our last question of this for this session. If you have something you'd like to share, Lama.
No, I'm ready to go on to the metal element, the lungs and large intestine.
Okay, well, hang on. We do have one more question then, and then we'll move on.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I asked that backwards, didn't I? Lama, someone is asking your thoughts on a diet for a person who has lupus, autoimmune disorder.
Yeah, well, definitely we have to improve the immune system, and lupus is reversible, just like diabetes is reversible. But, taking a drug is not going to reverse it. Lifestyle is important, diet is important, and getting appropriate treatment is important to supplement that. And so we're seeing lots more immune system problems. The immune system just turns on itself because it's overwhelmed. There is, a predisposition, a genetic predisposition, but our lifestyle plays in equally, if not more so. So what is your level of stress? What is your diet? What is your sleep? What is your hydration? What is your nutrient? Check and see, get a blood test, ask to get the levels of that we talked about of nutrients. And so if you can, find a functional medicine doctor, someone who thinks outside the box and is just not likely to prescribe another med to, generally the meds are like covering the light, the add oil light in your car. That doesn't really change anything. You have to add the oil. So these Band-Aid approaches have not been working so well. We have a sicker population than we've ever had. There's a reason why. People are not taking the due care in their lives. We're just really out of balance in so many ways. So we have to go back to basics. And that is, the lupus is an expression of that out of balanceness. So what created that? There are no two lupus patients the same.
Okay, so that thank you very much, and that concludes the questions that are in the chat. And if you'd like to move on, Lama, we've got another like 7 minutes in our morning session. So if you'd like to add something here, you can.
Yes, we'll just begin. We'll start our discussion on the metal element.
Okay.
So we go ahead and bring that up, and we'll start with this. So the autumn is the season of the harvest. It is a time when we gather nature's bounty and reap what we planted during the spring. And we're grateful for the harvest, and we begin preserving the fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds in preparation for the coming cold winter months, which are here. Yes, I was telling Lama Kathy before we came on that it's going to be 24 tonight here in Gainesville, Florida, which is most unusual. That we don't usually get a hard freeze, but we're going to experience winter tonight. So this is a time for a critical reflection in our lives through this metal time of year. Things are beginning to recede. The trees are losing their leaves, and the sap is going in. It's not rising. It is a time of hibernation and beginning to slow down. It is an excellent time for contemplation and the qualities we wish to nourish and cultivate that positively affect our behavior and serve our higher purpose. So we can also clear away any negative habits that do not serve our higher goals and aspirations. So it's a time of reflection. Things begin to turn inward. And it is a time of year that naturally lends itself to taking stock in where we are and establishing a clear strategy for moving forward in our life. So fall officially begins, the fall solstice, on September 22nd, generally we say. But the hint of this season, changes, comes well before. So the autumn represents the beginning of the yin time of year as it begins to wind down energetically and seasonally. The yin time is a slower time, cooler time, as opposed to the yang energy and the heat. So when we begin to slow down and we prepare for winter, and the brilliant colors of the fall foliage we see, and the clear blue sky and cool, dry air is a welcome relief from the heat and humidity of the previous summer. That is certainly true for us here in Florida. And the Chinese character, Jin, which is the metal, represents the symbol of metal, is gold. The Chinese character Jin represents the symbol of metal, which is gold. And this represents our precious, valuable, hidden internal energy. We can say our Buddha energy. We might say that this hidden treasure is an important part of our spiritual growth. It's the true value. It's who we really are, the essence of our internal qualities, this hidden treasure. And we usually think of gold as being the highest kind of metal that we prize. And, we once had a gold standard that our money was based on. That's no more. But we thought of it in that way, that was the most precious thing. And we have this quality, and that is associated with the metal, this aspect. So in the Buddhist tradition, we call it the Buddha nature. That is certainly the gold standard that we all possess. But this is a recognition and understanding of our innate goodness and our potential And we need time to realize it, to turn our energy inwards. And that's what this season and what this energy of metal refers to. It presents us with tremendous opportunity to achieve true happiness. If we can tame our mind, it's the cultivation of virtue that leads to our sense of self-worth and value in the highest and best manifestation. So metal is associated, with our own internal sense of self-worth. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who have very little self-worth. And it is the cultivation of virtue that leads to our sense of self-worth and value. So this is how we continue to progress along our spiritual path. During metal time, the cosmic energy is of the season transition to longer nights and shorter days. Leaves are dropping off the trees. It's a time of decay. So the leaves are dropping off and going into the earth. And this is the natural cycle in preparation for the rebirth to come in next year's growth. So it's a natural cycle, and just like we might say that, for someone like myself, we're in the metal element time of our life, so things are beginning to wind down. This is the continuation of nature's cycle that enriches and supports the possibilities for the continuity of life. And during metal time, light is diminished, becomes gentler, less intense. Our nose is associated with this, but we'll go ahead and say and start at the top. Metal element, the color is white. So this is, again, the color like we associated with the other elements is a kind of a quality that's we can see around the lips or the eyes. It is an attraction to color. It's usually associated with purity and uprightness, ethics, morality. Yogis wear white. It is kind of purity. The harvest we just mentioned, we are reaping the harvest of what we planted in the spring and developed in the summer and the late summer. But in our lives too, we get to see what we have cultivated over our years. How are we doing? We can take stock in those tangible and untangible things that we've created, and what our goals are for the future. We mentioned the nose, that's the gateway to the lungs. Our sense of smell is associated with this, and we should be breathing through our nose, the sense organ. That helps to purify the air, warm the air, and again, our sense of smell is also associated with that. That's why people have lost their smell who have had COVID. That is one of the senses to go because it affects the lungs and destroys that quality. Mucus is associated, this is the fluid. So, when we have a cold, the body in its wisdom, we have an inflammation in the throat or in the nose, and the body in its wisdom will produce mucus to protect the mucous membranes and to discharge any toxins that might be there. That fluid helps to remove the toxin, get it out of the body, and protects the mucous membranes. So the fluid associated with the metal element in the lungs is mucus. Body hair is the indicator. So a lack of body hair or excess body hair is also associated. That you may see certain patches of body hair. Some places may have hair, some places don't. And this is body hair. This is all over the body. So this is an indication of metal element. The tissue is also the skin and the hair. So the skin is seen as a third lung, and it has a respiration. It breathes and also detoxes. So when we're going through a particular situation, the body will develop a fever. and we'll sweat, and we can sweat it out. There is and that usually will help us to detox. Using hot tubs or particular saunas are excellent ways to detox the body from heavy metals and other kinds of pathogens. So using the body, and when we, if you're feeling bad or you feel like you've got a virus or something like that, taking a sauna and getting the body temperature up, like creating an artificial fever, helps the body to kill off the pathogen. Pathogens have a very small window where they can survive, and if we raise that temperature up and sweat, it can have a very positive effect on our immune system and our capacity to remove the toxin. So that's through our skin. We also have a wei qi of energy that is on the skin level. So we want to have the lungs, as we were mentioning, to do pranayama, to do breathing exercises, not only charges up the lungs, but also enhances our wei qi, or our protective qi. And in Florida, it is not unusual to have overhead fans in the bedroom to cool things off, but that wind from the fans penetrates through the pores of the skin and can create problems. So not a good idea to sleep under a fan, or if you feel a breeze blowing on you from a fan, whether it's overhead or otherwise, not a good idea. And you may be covered, but your head and face is not. So even palsies or paralysis can occur in the face. Bell's palsy, you may be familiar with that. That is often a wind-cold invasion, and that happens from a wind blowing on the muscles and affecting the nerves. So that wind-cold invasion should be avoided. So we mentioned the lungs and the large intestine, the two organs, a yin organ, the lungs, large intestine, the yang organ moves feces through it, and also it's the last phase of absorption in the large intestine. And that is the place where we want to keep the friendly flora strong, and where the medications, antibiotics, and things like that, again, affect our large intestine. Rotten is the smell. So this is a smell that is, if you've ever been in a butcher shop, for example, and the meat that's there, there's a particular quality, and the meat may not be rotten, but there's a smell that's associated with it, or blood has this kind of a rotten kind of smell. So mucus as well, that is has this rotten smell if it stays. So that is the smell. Pungent is the taste. So that is a spicy taste, pungent. And I often use the example of wasabi. If you're having your sushi and you have a little too much wasabi, it will definitely open. That's yes, that will open up your sinuses, and that is tonifying to the lungs. Opens the breathing passages. And there, if you have a particular traction, that helps to nourish the lungs. In excess, though, it can diminish it, but that spicy taste. And some of you may, I often ask what is your craving for taste these days? And in certain situations, it may be pungent. In other situations, it might be sweet. In other situations, it may be sour, or your body in its wisdom will sometimes have certain cravings, and it's fine to acknowledge those and use them. But if it goes on for a long period of time, that can lead to a disbalance. So that's why we say, on your plate, you should have all the different tastes, all the different colors, and to eat what's in season and what grows around you. Now we have a very, our economy and our world is becoming smaller and smaller, and we may be eating things that are not the best for us in the particular climate that we're in. So that is, eat what's in season, eat what's around you. That is a good rule of thumb. The sound is weeping. It's like a person is crying. It has that weepy quality to it. There's a grief or a sorrow that goes with it. That's the emotion. But the sound, the quality of the voice is weeping. And the emotion is grief, sorrow, separation. And now more than ever, given our situation of being in isolation, we're not, at least now we're starting to come out of our isolation somewhat, but that has been a really traumatic aspect of this whole pandemic, particularly for kids who have been at home, sometimes alone, sometimes certainly without their friends and not seeing anybody. It is really impacting the lives of many people. And this grief, sorrow, separation, and what we have on the internet and people comparing themselves with others, their sense of self-worth is compromised. And so this situation, the pandemic, has worked a hardship in so many ways on the body, minds, and spirits, particularly of our younger people, depressions. And we see kids at really young ages on antidepressants or on a variety of drugs. We've never seen this before. And the incidences of ADD or learning disabilities or a variety of things, the amount of vaccines that are given early on within the first few weeks of life for kids are affecting them as well. The body wasn't designed for this, particularly their immune systems, which are so fragile initially, are being compromised by this way we're doing things, unfortunately. So grief, the emotion, grief, sorrow, separation, lack of sense of self-worth and value. These are the emotions associated with the metal element. The climate is dry. If a person, they used to say people with tuberculosis, go out west, go where it's dry. To a degree that is true. It helps the lungs, but in excess, it can be too drying. But one may prefer that particular climate. There's a reason why, just like a person might, again, like the color white or the pungent taste. The climate also affects our health and well-being. The direction is west. So, we talk about grief, the unresolved grief is an underlying aspect. Oh, I've gone way over time. I get carried away. We should probably take a break and we'll come back to this. And I'll talk a little bit more about the emotions in detail for all of the elements. I think we should probably discuss that because in Western medicine, we usually are concerned about the physical body, and our emotional world is left unattended. But we can't separate these. They work hand in hand. Our physical and emotional, mental states are all related. Okay, sorry to have gone over. We'll take a break until 1 o'clock.
Thank you very much, Lama. Thanks, everyone. And we'll resume at maybe 5 minutes after 1. And thank you very much, Lama. And I'm looking forward to the afternoon session. And everyone, I will be on the same Zoom channel. And so we will see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.